Hi guys, it's Joe. Welcome back to my channel. So today's project is for Penguin Palette. So today's project I'll be using the new Stencils 360 tool along with the magical fireworks stencils, the warmest wishes and heartfelt notes coordinating penguin perfect cuts, and I'll just be using the heart. And the stamp set is Words from the Heart Chapter 1. And then also the standalone die, the dots meet dashes large rectangles. So let's get started. So here you can see I have the base of the Stencils 360 already taped down to my work surface. I'm inserting the paper guide, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I put some removable tape on the center to hold that piece of paper down. And then the stencil guide I'm using is the 6-inch stencil guide, and there I put the removable tape on the guide there. And then I'll be using the magical fireworks stencil. So first I'll be using those burst lines there, and then you can see that the symbol is a star, so it's you can go any way you want. You don't have to follow any specific symbol. So but I'm using, if you look on the guide, I'll be using the solid heart symbol. So I'm using Distress Oxide inks as well as Distress inks. The first one is Wilted Violet, and then the yellow is Mustard Seed. And then I go ahead and I'm cleaning as I go, so I'm just using a microfiber cloth, wetting it, and then I have like a scrap pad, and I'm just rubbing off the ink on that paper there. So I go ahead and turn my stencil while holding it down with my left hand. I begin inking. So the next colors that I used is Fired Brick, and then the green is Mowed Lawn. So I'm just applying even pressure when I'm inking the stencil. You don't want to press and saturate the ink too much because it will bleed, and that has happened to me before. So I go ahead and turn it again to the next solid heart symbol, and I'm using pickled raspberry for the pink, and then the next color is a distress ink, and that is peacock feather. So I'm trying to create like a little rainbow fireworks burst there. And then next, again, I'm cleaning it, and then the next colors I'm using is Spiced Marmalade, and the blue one is Broken China. So the great thing about these stencils, or any stencil actually, you can see where the previous ink that you applied through the stencil. So you can still use the guide, and then you could adjust it by looking through your stencil, making sure that your images that you're going to ink is lined up. So it's a pretty much foolproof stencil tool. In the description box, I will be linking the introduction video that Sharon, the owner, has made for this particular tool. So it's more detailed, and it talks about all the different markings on the tool, and it's really easy to follow. So next, I'm done with the first stencil in the set, and now I'm using this burst of like tiny squares, and again I am following the heart symbol, and the ink that I'm using is Black Soot Distress Oxide ink. So it's not a harsh black, but it's more of a deep gray. So I'm just going and applying those in the suggested symbol. Again, I'm using the heart symbol, and I'm going to do that just one layer. And then like I said, you could see through the stencil, so you can see how you're going to be applying that stenciled image. So I'm pretty much done, and that is what that particular stencil looks like, layered up, and I really like how it looks. So let's get to the next step. So I just wanted to show you guys, I do have my Stencil 360 taped to my work desk, and instead of peeling it off and finding a place for it, I just go ahead and lay my working mat over it, and it doesn't take up any space, and I just go ahead and work on top of it, and it works for me. So there is the stamp set, warmest wishes, I'm sorry, words from the heart, chapter 1, and the sentiment I'll be using is crafty friends are the best friends. So I go ahead and take my stamping tool, the Misty, and I go ahead and line up the sentiment there. The ink that I'll be using is the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It's great for detailed stamps, and it's a really nice rich black ink color. So I go ahead and just stamp that twice because I really want a good impression of the sentiment. So that is the sentiment all stamped up, and then I just make sure I clean up my ink off the stamp. So that is what it looks like. So the next step, I take the dots meet dashes, the large dies, and I use the second die, which is the second to the largest, and I'm going to create a frame. So I go ahead and center that in the card, making sure that the sentiment is nice and centered and it's evenly cut. I run that through my cutting machine, and there you can see I created like a framed window. So I'm using that frame as a guide so that I can go ahead and adhere the center piece of that design on my card, and then I go ahead and take out the frame. And then next I take some foam adhesive tape. It's about half an inch wide, and the depth is about an eighth of an inch, so it doesn't have a really high profile. So I go ahead and adhere the acetate sheet to the framed window there. And then there's that foam adhesive tape. At first I thought I was going to apply it directly to the card base, and then I go ahead and decide to apply it on the actual window. So I apply it on all four sides of the frame, and it's a great width because it does not stick out through the shaker frame. So I make sure all the edges are sealed and that there's no room for the sequin mix to escape. So there is the base, and then the front window. I use the heart die in the die set that I showed you, and I was trying to put it in the front. It didn't work out. It was a little bit too big, so then I go ahead and put that somewhere else on the card. So here I'm taking some red heart sequins, and then also some gold star sequins that I'm going to use in the shaker portion of my card. Go ahead and make sure that it's nice and centered, that it's not near the edges when I apply the window frame. So I go ahead and take out the adhesive backing, and then I go ahead and make sure it's nice and centered and apply it to the base of the card, making sure it's all nice and sealed on all the edges. So that is pretty much the card there. And then I go back and get that heart die cut and adhere it in this inside of my card in the center. So I thought that's a cute little heart. And you could either write on it or just write around it. But yeah, so that is my card. It's really simple. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon with more projects. Bye.